layers of communication and data transactions throughout a sales process. Okay, and we're going to start with the end in mind. Okay, and so you got your CYA, cover yourself in case of an audit. Okay, and then you take the data also and you use it to better your sales process. Okay, and that's the end. That's what you're trying to do. Okay, and of course you're delivering to the client what they bought. Now, if you're buying online, okay, there's a really and a drive-through is also a good example of this. Is when you either order online or you're going through the drive-through, right? And you got a menu. It's a very set menu, okay? And you order exactly what you want, and then they say, "Is this correct?" You say yes, and we go through. Okay, and so you got that commitment, and it's the money transaction happens there too, which is kind of important, right? And so you got a very solid commitment because the client already paid. They've already checked their order, and so as it goes through processing, the communication doesn't have to happen in there as much. Okay. Now, when you don't have the money transaction up front, and you have a customizable product or a product that can change as the conversation evolves throughout the process, communication has to be happening a lot more. And so you got to look at the layer of communication. You got your business up here, you got your client, and the rest of the world down here. Okay. And so the salesman is watching this process all the way through until it's delivered. Okay. But not only that, but he also wants to make sure, or she, sorry, that they have good data down here to be able to communicate again to the rest of the world and make sure that their sales and marketing is solid. Okay. So, setting expectations of communication between you, the client, and your team. How does that have to happen? Well, in previous videos, you saw my triangles, and the triangle comes down, it's very narrow because you're jumping departments, okay? And so that communication has to be very exact, right? And even there, if the commitment and the money transaction was there with the client, that communication is very exact, okay? They know exactly what they're ordering, and it goes into the fulfillment department very exactly, okay? That communication jumping department has to be exact, okay? And so, but you also got time expectations. So you put in your order online, and you know the fulfillment department's already told you it's going to take 2 days to ship. Great. So you can push out that time expectation to 2 days, and expectations are being met. Okay. If your processing department has a 24-hour turnaround time to receive that communication, you know you have 24 hours to communicate and make sure that your communication was received. And that's very important. The handoff in a relay race is a two-way streak, right? I got to hand it off very exactly, and it has to be received very exactly. So after 24 hours, if that's your expectation for processing, you get to call your processing department and said, "I sent this email to you. Did you receive it? And was I clear?" Right? And then the processing department gets to say, "Yes, it is clear." Okay? And so the processing department's going to take that, and they're going to process it, and now it's going to go to the factory or the warehouse, and the warehouse has 24-hour 3-day intake, right? And so that 3 days, now your sales team is watching this because they're very, very concerned about covering themselves in an audit and making sure they got good data going all the way through, right? And the client experience, because if the client experience doesn't come back, where's that communication going to happen? It's going to happen with the salesman, not with your processing department, okay? And the salesman has to be able to communicate with the client at any given minute. Hey, this is taking 5 days, where are we at? And the sales team could say, this is the process. It's a 24-hour intake originally, and then it goes into the warehouse, and the warehouse has a 3-day turnaround time. So we're good. This is exactly, rather than saying, I don't know, okay? And so managing those timelines, this is where communication has to happen, okay? It doesn't have to happen with your processing department on a daily basis, okay? Unless you have things happening on a daily basis. You're not so concerned about a scheduled meeting time. You're watching these expectations throughout the process, okay? Now the sales team can have their meeting daily, right, to kind of see what, when, and how to communicate with the client and manage those expectations, and daily seeing when their expectations and needs are being met, because they need to communicate with the client. They need to cover themselves in case of an audit, and they got to make sure they have good data at the end. Okay, so it goes all the way through. It gets to the point where it's delivered, and how's it being delivered to the client, and are we setting up for a resell, upsell, or referrals? Okay, so the sales department gets it at the end here and says, great, we're good. I'm covered in case of an audit, and I got great data to be able to resell, upsell, or get referrals and deliver that to the client. Okay, and that's it. And then at that point, then it can go into your audit department, your quality control department, call it whatever you want, and they can make sure everything's put away properly, because we know that this communication throughout the process is being put away properly, and it's exactly what happened throughout the process, because the salesman might be having daily or bi-daily conversations with the client, weekly, whatever. Processing doesn't know that. They got their order here at this point, okay? And your audit department, storage department, whatever, received it at this point, but there's all this communication going on. So whoever's communicating has to make sure that communication is put away properly. You get what I'm talking about.